friends, this is Heidi with Kiddos. I'm going to make a pan of the chicken enchiladas today. So what I have in here is a family pack of chicken breast. Now you can put this in the oven or you can boil it. A lot of people say they don't like to boil it because they feel like the chicken loses a lot of its flavoring. In my opinion, it doesn't really make it or break it with me. I boil my chicken until it is just done, and then I take it out of the water and set it on a chopping, like a cutting board, and let it rest till it cools a little bit, and then I cut that up, and then I start putting together my mixture for my chicken enchiladas. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let this chicken boil until it gets done, and then I'll show you what is next. I got a new pan out, and it's a deep pan, so I love this pan. I got this from Williams-Sonoma, and I use it all the time. It's like my go-to pan. It's like if I got rid of all of the other ones, I probably wouldn't even miss them, because this is the one that I rotate to all the time. I saved all the broth from where I boiled my chicken, and my chicken is laying over here cooling on a cutting board. So once that gets cool enough that I can actually touch it and pull it apart, then I'll show you what all the ingredients are to this and what we need to do to make these enchiladas. Okay, now we're going to start putting together my my mixture for the inside of the enchiladas. So the first thing I add to my pan is a can of tomatoes with green chilies. That gives it some heat, some kick, and it is very tasty. And then I add in a can of cream of chicken soup. It gives it a really good flavor as well, and works really well with the rotel. What I like to do is I like to take my chicken broth that was left over from where I cooked my chicken breast, and I measure out 1 can of this chicken broth. Now, if you feel like your mixture is still thick after you add your chicken to it, you can add more broth. That's why I save it, because sometimes it is a little too thick, and I find that you want a little bit of liquid, but not overly too much, because when you freeze this, or even if you're just going to do this and bake it right away, when the mixture that you make up is nice and has a little bit of broth to it, it keeps your tortillas from being really dried out. And sometimes that happens whenever you make this in the oven. So to keep that from happening, I always make sure that I add some liquid to my mixture, because it keeps it from drying out. Now I want to add in some sour cream. I need to get a spatula here. And I don't really measure this, but I'm going to say this is probably about 1/4 of a cup of sour cream. I mean, you can taste it after you heat it all up and then decide if you want to add more. So really, this is a very versatile recipe. You can make it to your liking. So I'm going to turn some heat on underneath this and just get this going, and then I'm going to add in my chicken. The mixture is starting to boil a bit, and you can see it's getting nice and hot. Got all my chicken in there, and you can see also what I'm talking about the broth. The chicken absorbs a lot of that broth once you add it to this mixture. I'm going to turn the heat down on this, or we're going to end up wearing it. I want to add some cheese to this, and I'm just using a mild cheddar cheese. Probably about a cup to this mixture. I would say just a heaping handful of cheese, because you want to reserve some cheese for the top of your enchiladas when you go to put them all together. Now after this cheese melts and gets good and combined in here, that's when I decide if I want to add a little bit more broth. I can also add some salsa to this if you like salsa. If you want to make it hot, add more green chilies. This is a versatile recipe that honestly it is however you like it. You can add mushrooms. I've added green peppers, onions, you know, I'm not really sure, you know, this may not be your typical enchilada, but that's what we call them in our house. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of salsa to this. I like a little bit of heat in my tacos and stuff. We all do in this family. So I'm gonna add some salsa to this. This is I think this is a mild salsa. It's a chunky, yes, mild salsa, but it has great flavor, so I like to add that in here and make a difference. Now I'm going to gather my next few things that I'm going to need, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble this. Now you can assemble this and cover it with foil and pop it into the freezer for a freezer meal, or you can just assemble this and you're gonna basically cover it with cheese, pop it into the oven at 350 for until it becomes really good and bubbly, about 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes, and you got yourself supper. So really it's a simple supper, but you can make it ahead of time for your freezer, which is fantastic. I have been doing this a long time. My mother-in-law actually shared this recipe with me a long time ago, and I just absolutely love this, and my kids love this because she used to make this all the time for a lot of family gatherings and stuff because it made a lot, and you can make it ahead of time, which simplified things. So we have really big families, so we need a lot of food to feed all the kiddos. Okay, so I've changed a little bit where I'm at in the kitchen. I'm on the other side of the stove. I buy a ton of these aluminum pans from the Dollar Tree. They're super cheap. You can buy them from Costco. They're not expensive at all. But the first thing I do is I spray it with a little bit of non-stick cooking spray. What you're seeing is a piece of onion that I had. Okay. So I'm going to spray this a little bit with some cooking spray. And I say a little bit, but it looks like a lot, doesn't it? And I'm going to turn the heat off underneath my enchilada mixture. And I'm going to pull it over in the center of my stove so I can get to it. And I'm going to get a ladle. And the first thing I want to do is I want to put some of this mixture in the bottom of the pan. This really keeps the enchiladas from drying out, I think, in my opinion, and it makes for better tasting enchiladas. I don't like them dry at all. I've been to restaurants and they're too dry. I just cannot stand it. I send them back. I'm not a super picky person, but I don't like stuff that's dry. It shouldn't be dry at all. So I layer that in, and now I'm going to get my tortillas. Okay, let's see what these are. I have some organic flour tortillas here, as well as some whole wheat, 100% whole wheat flour tortillas, because I have someone in my household that is diabetic, and so we've been using a lot more whole wheat items because obviously it just makes sense. So we're going to do some whole wheat ones, say about 4 here on the end, and I will bend this side up so I know that the whole wheat ones are on this end. There we go. That will let me know. Okay, how I want to do this. See if I can't turn this way and bring the pan over here. It's heavy. It's heavy. Alright, so I'm going to add a little bit of the enchilada mixture to my tortilla right in the middle. And I like to fold in the sides, then pull up and push it all in the center, and then roll. And it keeps everything together pretty much. And of course, it's got a little bit of liquid in it, so it's going to seep out a little bit. So I put it in the middle. And I like mine pretty loaded. You can put, depending on the size tortilla you use, you know. So I bring it up and I grab it all in the middle, pull it forward, and I wrap. What I like to do is I like to take the remaining of the mixture. You do not have to do this. This is just how I do it. Because I love the way it tastes and my guys love the way it tastes. But I take the remaining enchilada mixture and just put it over the top of the enchiladas. Just like that. And then once I get this all on, then I cover it with cheese, and then you can cover it thoroughly with some foil, and then place this whole thing into your freezer. I would let it cool down a little bit before you place it into the freezer, but it is ready. And I just don't like wasting any of this good flavor in this chicken because it is so delicious. Okay, there we go. So now you want to cover this with cheese. All over the top. And there's no such thing as too much cheese. Just no such thing. Now we're going to eat this for supper tonight, but if you are going to freeze, you just cover this with foil and put it in your freezer, and then sometimes I take it out a day ahead and let it thaw, or I take it out the morning and let it thaw. But always, if you're using these aluminum pans, make sure that you bake your contents on a cookie sheet, because this is very flimsy, and when it gets hot you cannot take this out of the oven without burning yourself. So make sure you place it on a pan. Now I'm going to bake this for supper because I want you all to see the finished product and how delicious this is. So I'll be back to show you what it looks like. There is the enchiladas coming out of the oven, and we are about to eat. It smells really good. I love this recipe. This is my version of enchiladas. It's more like an enchilada casserole, but my family loves this, and what is awesome is you can make this ahead of time and pop it into the freezer and have an extra meal on hand. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, and I'll be talking to you all again soon. Bye guys.